Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I thought I'd try something a little different. So far on my channel, most of my content has been focused on credit card reviews, but I haven't really shared much about myself and my credit card journey. So today, I want to walk you through the 5 credit cards I currently have at age 25, how I got them, why I picked each one, and how I use them today. I know from personal experience that it can be overwhelming trying to figure out which credit card or cards are right for you because there are just so many options out there. But thanks to many people I've watched on YouTube and financial advisors I've spoken with over the years, I've been able to take what I've learned from others to make my own decisions with credit cards. So whether you're just starting out on your credit card journey or already a few cards in, hopefully this video will give you a helpful perspective and some real life examples to learn from. I'll also share a few mistakes I made early on and how I've adjusted my strategy over time to build good credit, earn better rewards, and avoid interest. If that sounds helpful, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's jump right in. So my very first credit card ever was the PNC Points Visa Signature, which I got back in 2018 when I was just 18 and a senior in high school. At the time, I really didn't know much about credit cards at all. Honestly, it wasn't even something I was actively thinking about. It was actually my mom who brought me into our local PNC bank branch and said, "It's time to start building your credit." So we sat down with a banker, I filled out the application and got approved for my very first card. At the time, I had no idea how to manage a card, what a credit score was, or even what the point system really meant. All I knew was that this card would help me build credit, and that's exactly why I got it. As far as the card itself, it was pretty basic. It earned 4 points per dollar in every purchase, which sounds great on paper, but the redemption value of those points wasn't very good, most of the time coming out to around 0.2 cents per point. So in reality, the rewards weren't anything special. Still, it served its purpose at the time. I mostly used it for things like dining out, groceries and gas, just everyday spending that helped me build up a payment history and start establishing credit. But here's what really mattered: learning how to actually use the card responsibly. I had to figure out how to pay off the full balance every month, avoid missing payments, and keep my spending in check. Doing that helped me build a solid credit score over time, and it's the reason why I was able to get approved for better credit cards later on. Now fast forward to today, I don't reach for this card anymore, but I do still keep it active by putting a small charge on it once or twice a year just to keep the account open. And I do that because this is my oldest credit card account, and the age of your credit is an important factor in your credit score. So keeping it open helps with my overall age, which can really benefit your score in the long run. Now, to sum it up, this card was nothing fancy, but it was my first step into the world of credit cards, and that step gave me the foundation I needed to move on to bigger and better cards later. Alright, let's move on to card number 2, which I got back in 2020 when I was 20 years old and a sophomore in college at Michigan State. The American Express Blue Cash Preferred. Now, unlike my first card, which was just meant to build credit, this one was all about the value. I had done a bit more research this time around, and I really wanted a card that actually gave me solid rewards for the spending I was already doing as a college student. At the time, I was spending a good chunk of money each week on groceries, streaming services, and transit, mostly Ubers, buses, and the occasional train. So when I saw that this card offered 6% cash back on groceries and streaming and 3% on transit, it felt like a perfect fit. Now, it did come with a $95 annual fee after the first year, which is definitely on the higher side for a cashback card, but I actually sat down and ran the numbers, and based on how much I was spending each month, I realized I'd still come out ahead, even after paying the fee. And I did. For those first couple years, I really maximized the value on this card. But as time went on, my spending habits started to shift. I moved in with roommates who already had all the streaming accounts covered, I started eating out a lot more instead of cooking at home, and I picked up other cards that gave me better value in categories like dining and travel. So eventually, I wasn't using this card enough to justify the annual fee anymore. That's why in 2022, I made the decision to downgrade it to the Blue Cash Everyday card, which has no annual fee. I still wanted to keep the account open for credit age purposes, and the everyday version still gives me 3% back on gas and online shopping, which fits my spending a lot better now. So overall, this card was super valuable for me when I first got it. And even though it doesn't play as big of a role in my wallet today, it was a great stepping stone. It taught me how to strategically choose a card based on where I spend the most and how to reevaluate when things change. Okay, so the third card I got, also in 2020, literally just 1 week after getting the AMEX, was the Apple Card. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. I made a video about why the Apple Card might not be worth it for most people, which you can check out above. But back then, I was still pretty new to credit cards and learning as I went. At the time, and well, I still am, I was deep in the Apple ecosystem. I had an iPhone, a MacBook, an Apple Watch, Apple Music, all of it. And when I saw the fancy titanium card, paired with Apple's sleek marketing that makes everything feel like the next big thing, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Seriously, Apple truly knows how to make you want their stuff. Plus, the way the card integrated with Apple Pay and the Wallet app was super clean and modern. That, and I was still in that early phase where getting approved for new credit cards felt very exciting, so I went for it. Now, in hindsight, applying for this card just 1 week after the AMEX probably wasn't the smartest move. Multiple hard inquiries in a short span can definitely ding your credit score, but I didn't really know that at the time. I was just excited to build my wallet with cards that offered real value. And another reason I justified getting it was because at the time, I didn't have any card that gave me more than 1% back on non-bonus categories. So getting 2% back on everything via Apple Pay made this card a solid catch-all option for me. In terms of rewards, the Apple Card gave me 3% back on Apple purchases and select partners like Uber, 2% back whenever I used Apple Pay, and 1% back if I used the physical card. It was clearly designed for people who use Apple Pay regularly, which I definitely do. But I'll be honest, when I first got it, I couldn't resist pulling out the physical card a few times just to flex in front of my friends because I thought it was an expensive and sleek looking card. These days, I use the Apple Card more like a backup. I'll swipe it here and there for random purchases when I'm not getting a bonus from another card. If I'm not earning more than 2% anywhere else, I'll just default to Apple Pay with this card. I still use it for Uber since they're one of the boosted categories, and anytime I'm making an Apple-related purchase, this is the card I reach for. It's not the flashiest in terms of rewards, and I definitely wouldn't say it's a must-have, but I keep it around because it's easy to use, there's no annual fee, it helps my credit score by extending my average age of accounts, and it still fills a few small gaps when I need it. Now let's talk about card number 4, my Bank of America Customized Cash Rewards card, which I got in 2022 right after graduating college. At that point, I was taking personal finance very seriously. I had just moved all of my banking from PNC over to Bank of America, mainly because of their connection with Merrill, where I was already investing. And having everything in the same ecosystem just made it way easier for me to manage my finances all in one place. Once I learned about the Bank of America Preferred Rewards program, I realized I could get a pretty solid cashback boost just by keeping my money within their system. That's when this card really started to make sense for me. Now, on the surface, this card doesn't seem super flashy. You get 3% back in a category of your choice, like dining, gas, online shopping, travel, and a few others, plus 2% back at grocery stores and wholesale clubs, and 1% back on everything else. But when I factored in the preferred rewards boost I qualified for, those multipliers went up quite a bit, and that's when the value really made sense for me. My chosen category is dining because that's where I spend the most, and with the rewards boost, it became a no-brainer. I started using this card for dining out and groceries almost every day, and honestly, it's still the most used card in my wallet right now. I didn't pick this card for flashy perks or travel benefits, it was simply a strategic move. It lined up perfectly with where I was already spending my money, and even today, I haven't found a better cashback setup for food. That said, I've definitely thought about getting the AMEX Gold card in the future. With 4x points on dining and groceries, plus the added flexibility of transferring membership rewards points for travel, it's one of the few cards that could realistically compete, especially if you're good about maximizing redemptions. But of course, it does come with a $325 annual fee, so I would really need to make sure I'm utilizing all the benefits it comes with to make it worth it. So for now, my Bank of America card having no annual fee is holding its own. And if you're curious about the Bank of America Preferred Rewards program and how that boost works, I made a full review video on the customized cash rewards card where I got a lot more in depth. So definitely check that out if you want to learn more. But bottom line, this card might not grab headlines, but it's been a powerhouse in my setup, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. Moving on, last but definitely not least, let's talk about my fifth and most recent card, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which I got in late 2024. This was a big turning point in my credit card journey because it marked my shift from focusing mostly on cash back to finally getting into the world of travel rewards. By that point, I had a pretty solid cashback setup. My Apple Card was my catch-all for 2% back with Apple Pay. My Bank of America customized cash rewards was covering dining and groceries, and my AMEX Blue Cash Everyday handled gas and online shopping. So the one major gap I had was travel. And I knew I wanted to fill that with a card that could earn transferable points and come with solid perks. I did a ton of research, and what I kept hearing over and over again was that the Chase Sapphire Preferred was one of the best entry-level travel cards out there. It had great travel protections, a reasonable $95 annual fee, and most importantly, it earned Chase Ultimate Rewards, which are super beginner-friendly when it comes to redemptions. Whether you're booking through Chase's portal or transferring points to partners like Hyatt, United, or Southwest, there's just a ton of flexibility, compared to AMEX membership rewards, which can be trickier to maximize for someone just starting out with points. I felt like Chase was the better ecosystem to learn with. Now, when it comes to earning, the Sapphire Preferred gives you 5x points on travel booked through Chase, 2x on all other travel, 3x on dining, streaming services, and online grocery orders, and 1x on everything else. So far, I've mostly used this card for booking flights, hotels, and Airbnbs, and for streaming services since it gets a little boost there too. I also signed up when the welcome bonus was 60,000 Ultimate Rewards points, which gave me a nice chunk of value right away and easily made up for the annual fee. Now, I already knew about the Chase Trifecta before I applied, and if you're not familiar, the Chase Trifecta is a card combo strategy where you use 3 Chase cards together: the Sapphire Preferred or Reserve, the Freedom Flex, and the Freedom Unlimited, to maximize your earning potential. The Flex gives you 5% back in rotating categories, the Unlimited gives you 1.5% back on everything, and the Sapphire lets you pool all those points and redeem them for travel at a higher value through Chase or their transfer partners. So getting the Sapphire Preferred was very intentional. I wanted to start building toward the Trifecta, but I chose to lead with the Sapphire because I was focused on getting into travel rewards. So while this card didn't replace anything in my wallet, it added a whole new layer to my setup. It's helped me move beyond just cash back and into the world of travel rewards, which is definitely where I see my credit card strategy going. And at some point, I also want to explore the AMEX travel ecosystem, especially since I live in Detroit and Delta is the main hub here. So looking back at all 5 of these cards, I've definitely picked up a few lessons along the way that I want to share with you and anyone looking to start their credit card journey. First, start building credit early. Getting that first card when I was 18 gave me a big head start, and it's made a huge difference in my credit score over time. Second, don't apply for multiple cards too close together. I made that mistake back in 2020 when I applied for the AMEX and Apple Card just 1 week apart. I didn't realize back then that multiple hard inquiries in a short time can lower your score, especially when your credit profile is still new. Third, downgrading is a smart move. When I downgraded my AMEX from the Blue Cash Preferred to the Blue Cash Everyday, I avoided the annual fee without closing the account. That helped me keep my credit history intact, which is huge for maintaining a strong score. Fourth, take the time to research cards that actually fit your lifestyle. It's easy to get tempted by flashy perks or big sign-up bonuses, but the best credit cards are the ones that reward you for how you actually spend. And lastly, don't just chase the hype. Build a setup that works for you. Your wallet doesn't have to look like anyone else's. What matters is finding a strategy that gives you value and helps you reach your goals, whether that's maximizing cash back, building credit, or earning travel rewards. So that's my credit card journey so far. 5 cards, a few mistakes, and a lot of lessons learned along the way. Hopefully, this gave you a better idea of how to think through building your own setup. If it did, be sure to like the video, subscribe for more, and let me know in the comments what your first credit card was or where you're at in your journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.